What's up, y'all? Welcome back to my channel. My name is Grady and I listen to country music and whatever else I want to. And today is gonna be a solo review, and I don't always do solo reviews. I reserve them for the big albums, but I think this is gonna be a big album. And if my powers of prediction are good, it's gonna be a huge album over the course of time. I'm talking about the new record from Tyler Childers. It's called Country Squire, and we're gonna break it down today. Before we do though, I wanna say a shout out to our sponsor, Ridge Wallet. Ridge makes these cool aluminum wallets. They're very small. They replace the big bulky ones that you sometimes carry around. It's really easy to get your cards in and out. They're sleek, they're minimal. You can get 10% off your first order using the promo code Grady, and I got a link for them as well in the description down below. Check them out. Thank you to the Ridge for sponsoring the channel. And I also want to say before we start, go check out my last video, for real. It was a video about painting, and if you're like, Grady, that's not interesting to me, just go check it out. I think you might like it more than you think you do. And I'm not always going to be filming in my new studio space, even though I kind of unveiled it over there. Sometimes I'll still be making videos over here. It's just nice to have another location. Now let's talk about this album, because it is functionally a sophomore album for Tyler Childers, because he broke out in such a huge and definable way with Purgatory.
I go running through the thicket.
That album had Nose to the Grindstone and White House Road and most notably Feathered Indians, and it became this sort of slow burn big album and made Tyler Childers one of kind of the key people in the new, I'm going to call it the new outlaw movement, which I'd say is happening out of Kentucky and out of Appalachia, if you're paying any attention to what's happening in country music right now. So anytime that happens, there's a lot of expectation on the next album. Is the artist going to be able to move forward the narrative of their career? Are they gonna produce something as popular as their breakout? And there's just this, it's a famous story that artists can't get the sophomore album right. And I'm here to say that Tyler Childers got the sophomore album very, very right. Sophomore album. Very, very right. Country Squire is a great record, and I think it zigs in all the ways that you almost wanted it to, away from kind of the intense, brooding, dark sound of Purgatory. He's really lightened things up this time around, but he's kept that Tyler Childers edge that's just been a little bit sanded for more mainstream appeal, and I think that's appropriate because he has a bigger audience now.
I wonder if she's cringing at the same time, thinking pretty thoughts of me.
The title of the album is where I want to start my analysis. Country Squire. And I guess that begs the question, what is a squire? Now, a squire is a noble man. I think it's one ranking below a knight, is what a squire is. And there's a lot to unpack even in that title. Now, the first thing would be that Tyler Childers is describing himself as a country squire, and that's just funny because he's always presenting himself as someone very down-to-earth, pretty humorous, and from Appalachia, a not fancy guy, but he's calling himself a squire. So there is some element of tongue-in-cheekness in the title, and hello, it's like an acid trip of a title when he looks like he's done a lot of drugs and become some sort of Hindu god. But the title track of the album actually reveals that Country Squire is the name of this sort of imaginary castle that he wants to own in Kentucky one day. It's a kind of dream that he has to build a home for his wife and for himself. So I think when the title is framed in that way as Country Squire, it means that this album is about his commitment to his wife and family, and also what he wants to build for himself. And I think what that means is that he's taking himself seriously. He wants to be successful enough at this whole music thing that he can build Country Squire one day. And he even says that in the song. I'm turning them songs into 2x4s, dreaming about the day that I'm sitting by the fire, huddled with my honey in the Country Squire. So this album is about his ambition in some ways, but then also putting Country Squire right there in the title. Maybe he's suggesting that he wants to make country music and elevate himself to the level of a squire. So I think that's, I'm obviously overanalyzing the title, but I do think that there's kind of an inherent mission statement to this album that unveils some of the major themes. And then I think the sound of the album is sort of revealing his ambition, because he has sort of softened up some of his harsher edges in the hopes of probably being a more appealing star to more people. So to me, Country Squire is a record that has Tyler Childers taking himself seriously and going for it in the country music world, and not the Americana world, if you remember what happened last time.
As a man who identifies as a country music singer, I feel Americana ain't no part of nothing, and is a distraction from the issues that we are facing on a bigger level as country music singers. It kind of feels like purgatory. Thank you.
Now, the two songs that had come out before this album was released, Housefire and All Your'n, they're kind of sonic outliers on this record, and honestly, thank goodness, because if I have a criticism of this record, it's that it can be a little bit one note otherwise. I love the sound of it. I really love the country instrumentation. I really love the acoustic vibe. I really love that the drums aren't overpowering. I really love the steel. I really love the fiddle. I really love the mountain sound and the way that Tyler Childers' voice is on display. And he's got this almost, he has such an intensity in his voice, a natural intensity, and a kind of vibrato that's very present, and a sort of snarl in the way he delivers things, and a kind of a whininess, a yelp. That would be the word for it, a yelp. I think that's all captured very well here. At the same time, I think sonically the record can be a little bit too samey because there's not a lot of hooks in some of these songs. They're very wordy, they're very interesting words, but there's not always this big, just easy to sing along with chorus, and sometimes you need that in music, and it's important in a live show. And I do think his live shows are going to be 100 times more fun to go to after this record than maybe after the last record, because there's some excuses to kind of dance around and sing along now. So I'm really glad that those two songs sound really different. I actually really love the Motowny vibe of All Your'n. I don't really get the criticism of it, why that bothers people, but I really enjoy that song, and it's gonna be a big hit for him. It's just kind of a easy to understand, lovey-dovey mountain boy song. But he expresses his love in other ways on this album too, like in the title track, Country Squire, where he kind of lays down his dream of having this castle where he'll be with his honey in the country squire. And most hilariously and awkwardly on the song, Ever Lovin' Hand, which is a song about masturbation.
They got my favorite lotion here. Something in a hotel I admire.
I sat there with my mouth agape and couldn't really believe what I was hearing at a grocery store when I heard Ever Lovin' Hand for the first time. This song is just filled with double entendres about being out on the road alone, missing his wife, and doing what he needs to do to feel that sexual satisfaction. But I mean, it's extremely well written. All these lines that would be innocuous otherwise, that it's hard out on the road, or I'm just trying to clean up the mess that you caused, take on a totally different meaning when you realize what it's about. So it's in some ways both incredibly brazen and inappropriate, and then also like kind of about commitment. And he's like, I'm doing this so that I don't philander. And he kind of addresses this kind of internal rambunctiousness that he has on this song, because and then again on another song called Gemini, where he's like, you knew what you were marrying. I'm a hellfire. He calls himself a hellfire, and he's like, you knew you were marrying a Gemini, and you like that side of me. So that song is, Ever Lovin' Hand is a good balance of kind of like, he is committed, he is still kind of this wild guy, and there is a part of him, a lot like Eric Church, even a lot like Dierks Bentley. This is a theme that I really enjoy that artists sometimes communicate, that is wondering, do I want to be on the road? There's a part of me that likes that too much, and it is in opposition with being a committed family man, but it's also who I am. Otherwise, on this record, we get a lot of kind of forlorn observational songs. I was going to call them story songs, but they're not quite story songs. A song like Peace of Mind is about a father and mother kind of watching their daughter, and she's wild and they don't really know what to do about it, and they're just working really hard trying to make money and put food on the table and get some peace of mind. But there's not a big storyline there. You just kind of dropped in almost like a little documentary. He does that again on Matthew. He even does that a little bit on the song Creaker.
Lost as a ball in a field full of corn.
Which, for the life of me, the melody of this song reminds me of On Top of Spaghetti, that old little children's song.
On top of spaghetti, all covered with cheese.
I can't stop hearing that whenever I listen to Creaker. But yeah, a lot of forlorn characters that are drinking a little bit too much, that are down on their luck, that are swinging hammers, that are rambling in a bar, that are wondering where they ended up or how they ended up at this point in their life. And that's a really nice part of his music. I would say it doesn't resonate with me as deeply at all as the songs that are more personal. I think these songs are interesting. I think they make for a kind of filled out record. This record really flows. You do not want to skip a song on this record. It just kind of one flows right into the other, and instrumentally they're really lovely and they're cohesive, and there's such a sound to this record. Sturgill Simpson produced it along with David Ferguson, and I think they did a great job achieving a consistent sound. But I do think they're a little more forgettable than the ones that are more personal to him, something like Ever Lovin' Hand, something like Country Squire. I like hearing that word I in a song, unless it's a really absurd story, something more like Fancy by Reba McEntire or something. But while I really enjoy these songs, they're not ones that I really am going to be going back to, songs like Creaker. Tonally, I think this is really a good course correction that Tyler Childers did. This album has a lot of moments that are just a little more upbeat than the stuff from before. I don't know if you guys have ever been to one of these concerts of like a really serious country artist, and that's totally my taste, but sometimes when it's just a dark room and it's all dudes and everyone has just got this intense look on their face and they're just sipping, you know, craft beers and just kind of doing that sort of chicken strut head thing as they really resonate with the harshness of the music. Like, that's cool, but that's not gonna get him to the country Squire. And I think on this album he kind of recognized, I need some moments for people to laugh. I need some moments for a girl to look lovingly at a guy on when he's singing All Your'n. And I need people to just want to have fun with my music too. And while some people might feel a bit of disappointment with that, I think it's actually filling out his catalog. Because now we've got all those big serious hits, and now we've got a few more kind of fun ones. And I think maybe the next album, it'll just be a balance of the two. So all in all, I think this is a really, really good album. I think it sounds awesome. I think it's true country. I think it's going to be a star-making album for him. I think it's going to establish him as the head of the outlaw movement now that Sturgill is sort of meandering off into psychedelic rock. I'm just really impressed, and I think Tyler's going to be around for a while, especially with this slick new haircut. He's a little more accessible for people on the outside. I think that this album, I'd give it an 8 out of 10, and I think it's well worth your listening, and I'm sure there's some songs that I haven't mentioned that really resonate with you. Tell me about them in the comments down below. That's it from me, guys. I can't wait to hear what you think of the album, and check out all my social media. Give this video a like, subscribe if you've never been here before. I talk about country music, I talk about other stuff. I just made a cool video that you should go check out, my last video. It's awesome. But yeah, that's it from me, guys. Bye.